Welcome to another deep dive. This time, it's all about Nikola Tesla. We've got excerpts from his Wikipedia page and,
Oh, cool.
yeah, and we're going beyond the usual Tesla cool inventor story. Like, what really made this guy tick? What made his life and work so, I don't know, fascinating?
Yeah, he was driven, wasn't he? That ambition to harness energy and make it available to everyone. It kind of runs through his whole life, from that early fascination with electricity to the whole grand vision of wireless power and all that.
Yeah, it's like he saw this future where energy, it wasn't just a commodity, but like a force that could connect the whole world. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And to get that, you got to go back to the beginning. I mean, the guy was born in 1856 in the Austrian Empire. What's Croatia now, right?
And his family, they play a surprisingly big role, don't they? I mean, yeah, his father was this Orthodox priest, but it's his mom who really sticks out.
Oh, yeah. She was something else. A gifted inventor, even though she never had any formal education or anything. Designing and building all sorts of household appliances, tools, you name it.
That's incredible. I mean, can we say Tesla's like inventive streak that it came from her?
Tesla himself definitely thought so. He said his memory, his creativity all came from her side. Even that, whatchamacallit, eidetic memory,
Like a photographic memory?
Yeah, basically.
Huh?
Recalling images with, perfect accuracy.
Wow. That would have been so handy for an inventor constantly coming up with new ideas.
Right.
But I mean, his childhood wasn't all sunshine and inventions, right?
Yeah.
He had that close call with,
Oh, the cholera, yeah, when he was a kid.
yeah, it almost overshadowed by all his achievements later, but it could have ended things right there.
9 months bedridden. Can you imagine?
It's crazy how something like that can shape you, you know?
And it was then that his father, who actually wanted him to be a priest, he made a promise. If Tesla pulled through, engineering school it was.
Talk about a life-altering promise. Makes you wonder, right? Was Tesla driven by proving he deserved that chance?
Maybe, but there was this other thing, kind of intriguing. While he was sick, the guy was reading Mark Twain like crazy.
You know, it's kind of relatable. We've all had those times where a good book helps you escape, especially when you're going through something rough.
Yeah, totally. But even after he recovered, Tesla didn't exactly take the straight and narrow path. To avoid the whole military service thing, he
Going
basically
off the grid, right? Yeah.
living up in the mountains, pushing himself physically, a real independent spirit.
Like, he was preparing himself for the bigger battles ahead, not against armies, but against, like, scientific dogma and the limits of the time.
And those battles, they really kicked off when he ran into a certain Thomas Edison.
Ooh, the Edison years.
Hmm.
Now things get interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Tesla's journey takes him to Paris first, working for the Continental Edison Company, installing these incandescent lighting systems.
Right.
Quite a change from the mountains of Croatia to the like bustling streets of Paris, huh?
And an even bigger one to New York City. Ends up at Edison Machine Works. Not exactly the elegance of Paris, more like gritty machinists, engineers, everyone's scrambling to build this new electric utility thing.
What a culture shock.
Hey.
And then there's that story about the $50,000 bonus.
Oh, yeah, that one.
So the story goes that Edison, or maybe his manager, they offer Tesla this huge sum to redesign their generators.
Yeah.
But Tesla always felt cheated. He said it was a practical joke because he never got paid.
It's a story you hear different ways, depending on who's telling it.
Right, but either way.
But the point is, Tesla felt betrayed.
Yeah, especially after moving his whole life, this job makes you think, how were inventors treated back then?
Right. The whole power dynamic thing. Was it intentional, exploiting Tesla, or just a big misunderstanding, blown out of proportion because it was such a competitive industry?
Who knows? But it definitely put a strain on their relationship. And it wasn't the only problem. Tesla was getting more and more frustrated with Edison's obsession with DC power, direct current.
Oh, yeah. He saw it as like a dead end. Uh-huh. Not the way to electrify the world.
And that's where Tesla's vision for AC, alternating current, that's when it takes off. He was convinced it was the future, and he was willing to risk it all to prove it.
Oh, yeah. And that risk-taking, it led him to strike out on his own. Starting with that, what was it, arc lighting company?
Yeah, here in the U.S., gets his first U.S. patents, but then the company goes belly up.
Yeah.
Loses control of those patents, too. It's a part of his story people often forget.
Happens to the best of us, I guess.
Yeah, a reminder that even geniuses have setbacks, right? Innovation, it's rarely a straight shot to success.
Totally. And it shows the struggles inventors still face. The whole business side, getting funding, protecting their ideas. But Tesla, he wasn't deterred. He had another trick up his sleeve. The AC induction motor.
Ooh, this is big.
Game changer.
This is the one that changes everything.
You got it.
Yeah.
It was the key to unlocking the true potential of AC power. And it sparked that whole war of currents, you know? Tesla versus Edison, a battle for the future of electricity. Now things get really juicy. This AC induction motor, it was like nothing anyone had seen before. See, back then, most motors, they used brushes and commutators to like switch the current flow. Lots of sparks, constant maintenance, the whole bit.
Sounds like a pain, to be honest.
Oh, it was. But Tesla's design, it was so simple, yet so brilliant. Imagine a spinning magnetic field, right? Created by that alternating current. And that field interacts with the rotor, makes it spin without any physical contact.
No brushes, no sparks.
Exactly. And that caught the eye of George Westinghouse, big name in AC power. He knew a game changer when he saw it.
Yeah, he licensed Tesla's patent, didn't he? Gave him a bunch of money, stock options, and like a royalty on every horsepower produced.
Yeah, it was huge. Seemed like Tesla had finally made it, but things were about to get a whole lot more complicated.
This war of currents, it was really heating up, right?
Yeah.
Edison was out there pushing DC, saying it was safer. What was he doing to make that happen? And what did it mean for Tesla?
Edison wasn't just promoting DC, he was actively trying to sabotage AC. Publicly electrocuting animals, trying to show how dangerous it was, even tried to get laws passed to limit AC voltage. Can you believe that?
Wow, cutthroat. So what was at stake for Tesla? I mean, it was more than just proving his invention was better, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was about validating his whole vision, his whole belief in what electricity could be.
So how did they fight back? How did Tesla and Westinghouse counter that propaganda?
By showing the world what AC could do. Highlighting its efficiency, its ability to travel long distances, stuff DC just couldn't handle. And the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago, that was their big moment.
That's where Westinghouse won the contract to light up the whole exposition, right?
Yeah.
Using Tesla's polyphase AC system.
Yeah. It was a total game changer, this massive spectacle of lights, all powered by Tesla's system, millions of people seeing it. It proved that AC was safe and that it was the future.
But why was polyphase so important? What made it so different from what Edison was doing?
Think of it like this. Edison's DC system, it was like a one-way street, just a single current flowing in one direction, limited, you know.
Okay, so what made AC different? How did Tesla's system work?
With polyphase, you've got multiple alternating currents, all out of sync with each other. And that creates this rotating magnetic field, makes AC motors way more powerful and efficient than anything DC could offer. Plus, you can easily change the voltage, step it up or down with transformers, which means you can send power over super long distances, no problem.
So basically, Tesla's system meant you could generate power in one place and send it wherever you needed it, efficiently. Kind of like, I don't know, comparing horse and buggy to a bullet train.
Perfect analogy. And winning that World's Fair contract, that helped solidify AC as the dominant electrical system, the one we still use today. But, of course, there were still bumps in the road. The financial panic of 1890, it hit Westinghouse hard. They had to restructure, cut costs, the whole 9 yards.
Oh man, after all that, Tesla's success was in jeopardy again. What happened?
Westinghouse had no choice but to renegotiate Tesla's royalty contract. And get this, Tesla, he knew his success was tied to Westinghouse. And he believed in AC so much that he
Tore up the contract, didn't he?
He did. Talk about putting your money where your mouth is. It was a gamble, sure, but it shows how much he cared about his vision, not just the money.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. He didn't get the fortune he could, but Westinghouse did end up buying the patent outright a few years later, gave him the financial freedom to chase even bigger ideas.
So what did he do next? Was this when he turned his attention to wireless power? To his famous Tesla coil?
You got it. He had this newfound freedom, so he sets up a bunch of labs in Manhattan. And yeah, the Tesla coil, that became his main tool. But it wasn't about creating cool lightning shows.
It was a bigger goal.
Way bigger. He wanted to transmit power wirelessly, no wires, no limitations. Can you imagine? And the Tesla coil, that was the key to generating those high-frequency, high-voltage currents he thought he needed.
Power through the air. It sounds almost like magic.
Yeah.
Did he ever manage to actually light something up wirelessly?
Oh, yeah, he did demonstrations, Geissler tubes, even regular light bulbs, all lit up without wires. People were blown away. But the technology, it wasn't quite there yet. Not for practical use, anyway.
Ahead of its time.
Big time. But along with wireless power, Tesla was tinkering with all sorts of other stuff, always pushing the limits of electricity. He came up with this steam-powered oscillating generator, trying to make AC generation even more efficient.
Steam-powered, but without all the, like, clunky machinery. Sounds pretty smart.
It was a neat idea, but it never really took off. But his bladeless turbine, that did find its way into things like speedometers and pumps. Funny how even his so-called failures sometimes led to unexpected breakthroughs down the line.
Yeah, shows that even the brightest minds have their missteps. But it's that dream of wireless power that really captures the imagination.
No doubt. And his experiments in Colorado Springs with that giant magnifying transmitter shooting lightning into the sky, that just added to the legend.
It's such a powerful image. The lone inventor, harnessing the power of nature, pushing the limits of science. No wonder people are still fascinated by him today. But he wasn't just interested in transmitting power, right? He thought he could send messages through the Earth itself, maybe even to other planets.
Yeah, he was really into radio waves. But he had some, let's say, unconventional ideas about how they worked. Thought they could be used for global communication, even for sending power.
That's where that whole story about him receiving signals from aliens comes from, right? What was he basing that on?
Hard to say. He never really gave any concrete evidence, just insisted he'd picked up these rhythmic signals he couldn't explain. Could have been anything, but it definitely fueled the mystery.
Aliens or not, his vision of a wirelessly connected world, that was pretty ahead of its time, wouldn't you just say?
Oh, for sure. And it all culminated in his most ambitious project yet, Wardenclyffe Tower. This massive structure meant to be a global communication hub and a wireless power transmitter all in one. It was supposed to make his dream a reality.
What a shame it was never finished. What happened? Why did this dream project fail?
Well, there are a few things. For one, Marconi, he succeeded in sending radio signals across the Atlantic. That was a big blow to Tesla's ambitions. And then JP Morgan, his main investor, he pulled out.
After all those setbacks and money troubles, it must have been devastating for Tesla to see it all fall apart. It makes you wonder what he could have achieved if he'd had the support he needed.
It's a reminder that even geniuses are at the mercy of, well, reality. But even though Wardenclyffe was a bust, Tesla's later years were still full of interesting experiments and, yeah, some pretty eccentric stuff that still intrigues people today.
Let's dive into those later years after a quick city. So Tesla's later years. It's kind of amazing how even after Wardenclyffe, he just kept going, always exploring. He got into X-rays way before Röntgen made them famous, right?
Oh, yeah, way before. He might have even taken an X-ray image by accident. He was trying to photograph Mark Twain, lit up by a Geissler tube.
No kidding.
Yeah. But those early experiments, they were kind of risky, especially the ones with those single electrode X-ray devices. Those were pretty dangerous.
Dangerous how? What were the risks back then?
Well, no safety features like we have now. Tesla himself got skin burns from being exposed too long. It's a reminder, right? Those early scientists, they were really putting themselves on the line.
Yeah, makes you appreciate how far we've come. But Tesla, he didn't stop there. Didn't he also, invent remote control?
He did. Back in 1898, he showed off this radio-controlled boat. Imagine seeing that back then, a boat moving around with no wires or anything. He even thought it could be a prototype for, a guided torpedo for the Navy.
That's wild. Way ahead of his time. He was laying the groundwork for drones and all that. But those later years weren't all smooth sailing. He had those big legal fights with Marconi over the radio patents, didn't he?
Yeah, those really dragged on. Tesla felt Marconi had stolen his ideas for wireless tuning, and he wasn't totally wrong. Years later, the Supreme Court actually sided with Tesla.
But by then, it was too late, right? Kind of a hollow victory.
Pretty much. It's sad all those legal battles took away from his real achievements.
And speaking of recognition, there's that story. Did Tesla refuse to share the Nobel Prize with Edison? What's the truth there?
It's a good story, but the Nobel folks say it never happened. Both of them were nominated for the Physics Prize one year, but neither one won.
So, just another myth adding to the rivalry, huh?
Seems like it. But even beyond all the inventions and legal drama, Tesla's personal life, that's a whole other story, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, complicated guy. Genius, visionary, but also kind of reclusive. Judgmental sometimes. Never married. Said it would distract him from his work.
Right, but he had some close friends, people like Mark Twain.
And those pigeons. He loved those pigeons,
Yeah.
spending hours feeding them in the park. There's even a story about one special white pigeon. He said he loved it like a woman.
I think it shows, he had empathy for animals, a side people don't always see. But yeah, a little eccentric for sure. Became a vegetarian later in life. And even with his brilliance, he had some, unusual scientific beliefs.
Like how he disagreed with atomic theory and Einstein's relativity. That's surprising, considering his own work with electricity and magnetism.
Yeah, he even claimed to have his own theory of gravity, but he never published it. Guess he always liked to challenge the norm, in science and in life.
So looking back, what's Tesla's legacy? We've seen the highs, the lows, the quirks. What's the takeaway from all this?
For me, it's remembering that Tesla, beyond the genius, he was a person. Driven by curiosity, wanting to make the world better, he struggled, he made mistakes, but he never gave up pushing the limits. A real inspiration.
A true visionary, imagining a world powered by clean energy, connected wirelessly. Ahead of his time, for sure. But his impact, we can't deny it. Over 300 patents, the Tesla unit named after him, it's a lot.
Yeah, and his popularity's grown so much lately. He's become a cultural icon, inspiring a whole new generation. It's proof that his ideas, they still resonate.
It makes you think one person can really make a difference.
Definitely. And with Tesla, it's such a mix of brilliance, drive, and yeah, even flaws. It makes you wonder, how would he handle today's world? All the tech, the instant fame, would he thrive or would it be too much?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. Imagine him now collaborating online, sharing his ideas instantly. Or maybe he'd miss that solitude, the peace to think.
Who knows? It's something to ponder. But Tesla's story, it reminds us that wanting to know more, wanting to invent, that's a part of being human, and it never gets old. So keep exploring Tesla's work, read his stuff, visit the museum, maybe even pick up where he left off. Maybe one of you will be the one to make that wireless world a reality.